What's up, gang? It's Delty from DeltyIsGaming.com, and in this video I'm going to bring to you, we're going over a little class that I do that's usually about an hour for people struggling to set up their bars or understand PvE DPS. Dungeons, trials, just leveling, Craglorn, Imperial City, just killing NPCs, not other players. So just keep in mind a couple things. This video is probably not for you if you know what the heck you're doing and you don't want to go through listening for half an hour on how to set up bars and answer questions. This video is for you, however, if you just want basic, simple knowledge on how to do damage in PvE. So I go through this about 25 to 30 minutes, answer some questions, and just talk people through some of the basic information so they can understand and get a clearer concept of how to do damage. One last thing, you'll notice, look over here, all you Magic Sork lovers, I deleted my Deltia, the Dragon Knight, the Red Guard one, and the reason why is the Dunmer can do stamina damage just as well. So I've been working on the last couple days is leveling up a Magic one. Hopefully tonight I can stay up for about 3 more hours, hit veteran rank 1, come out with a basic leveling guide, and from your feedback I'm going to do how to Magic Sork. And we're going to do the same thing, leveling, some skills, endgame builds, maybe PvE and PvP both, and maybe something a little special, which is Maelstrom Arena. The reason I got this guy is I wanted to do something group PvP oriented as a leader, and almost every single really good PvPer I've experienced or fought against had a Sork leading their group. If you can't beat the Reds, you got to join them. So I'm on Daggerfall Covenant, finishing my Sork. It's a high elf. Take me a day or so to get this out to you. So hopefully you enjoy this video. Let me know if you like this type of thing. I might be able to do something like this specifically for the YouTube community, whether it's on an Xbox or a PS4. So level your character for something like this in the future. And if you would like it, please leave me a comment. Without further ado, DPS class, the basics. Okay, so what I want to explain to some people is the basics to DPS in this game. And it's pretty simple, but I think a lot of us don't really understand what we're supposed to do. I made a video called, well, I forget what it's called, but it's based on the premise buff, spam, execute. That is how DPS is done. So every class, whether you play stamina or magic, basically sets up their bars in a couple specific ways to optimize their builds. When I say buff, spam, execute, there are specific buffs or beneficial spells that you want to have. If you don't know, buffs in this game are broken down into minor and major buffs, okay? So what that means is you can have one major and one minor, but you can't have 2 majors. What does that mean? If you go into the Mages Guild for Magic DPS, there's 2 buffs that you need that everyone has. Now, individual classes can get these buffs as well, but Inner Light, that is the most beneficial for the Major Prophecy, or basically 10% spell crit, I think is what it is. For placing on your bar, you have to toggle it on. It gives you max magic, which is why you're going to have it on there. Now, Templars can get this using Vampire's Bane, but it's just not as effective as having max magic. Because if you don't know, DPS is done by your max magic or stamina, whatever's higher, and your max weapon damage or max spell damage. So you don't, it's kind of like building a hot rod car. You don't want a hot rod car with tons of spell damage and then low max magic. You don't want a hot rod car with tons of max magic and low spell damage. You want to kind of balance them in between. Okay? So the first one for magic is Inner Light. That gives you the major crit. Now, how do you get minor crit? Each class has a specific buff that they can do by using a skill and a skill line. Now, let me see where that buff is in this guy. So I'm on my Sork, Dark Magic. Activating a Dark Magic ability grants Minor Prophecy, increasing spell critical by whatever for 20 seconds. So to get the minor, you have to rely on someone else doing this. I think Dragon Knights are weapon brutality, so weapon damage. So if I do a skill here, let's pull this out. You'll notice your crit goes up. So you're looking in your character, spell critical, it's going to go up for 20 seconds. Once I stop casting this ability, it's going to go back down to whatever it was, Minor Prophecy. So just try to remember that. That's the one major and minor for crit. And we've already gone over the minor for spell and weapon damage. So magic builds, you're going to want to have Inner Light. And you're going to want to have a Sork using an ability. You're also going to want to have major sorcery, which is 20% spell damage. There's a couple of different ways to get this. You can use an ability Entropy, which most people go with Structure Entropy. Once again, in the Mage's skill line. Some classes have access to this buff as well. Sorks, for instance, have Crit Surge. So they don't stack. You can get them from one or the other, but they do not like do a 20 then a 20. So you get to choose whichever one you want. Now, Entropy has the benefit of proccing Might of the Guild, which gives your next attack 20% damage. So why is this useful to use over something else? So Crit Surge right here and Entropy both give me the exact same buff. But you'll see people use it in different scenarios. So in PvP, it's nice to have a burst. So what I do here is I have my 30-second buff, and I'll come up to a target, and I'll use Entropy because my next attack's going to hit much harder. And then I use Flawless Dawnbreaker, and now that turns it into a 30,000 hit instead of a 20,000 hit. So magic builds are going to run those things. Now let me kill these little scutters. So for magic builds, you really have your toggle on ability and you have your one cast every 15 seconds, or you can use weapon potions. So that's the buff part in buff, spam, execute. Buff, spam, execute. Buff, spam, execute. Okay, now the next part is stamina builds. Where do they get the thing? Stamina builds have a couple benefits. They get it from the weapon two-hander and its momentum, the last ability and momentum. You can also get it from Flying Dagger. You can use potions to get it, but most people run Rally, and that's why you see everyone use a two-hander. That's where they get their weapon damage. They get their minor from a Dragonite, and they get their minor crit from a Nightblade. So that's where you get that. Just like the Mage's Guild, you're going to get a benefit from the Fighter's Guild, which is the third ability, Expert Hunter. Major Savagery. So you want the major weapon damage and the major weapon critical. You can just slot this on your bar, similar to Mage's Guild, but you don't have to have it activated. So those are your basic standard buffs that you're going to want to run. You also have Dawnbreaker, which Dawnbreaker Flawless will give you an 8% just for merely having it slotted. So, in summary, you want to keep these buffs up. It's easy. Slot it on your bar, toggle it on for Mage's Guild, cast Entropy every 15 seconds, or have a spell power potion. That's all you gotta do. Why? It's gonna make you hit much harder. So the buff spam execute premise is you get those two buffs, and there's more complicated buffs to run that are beneficial. Sometimes healers run them, sometimes other people do. For instance, a Nightblade has a buff that gives them 8% weapon damage or 8% damage all the time. You're gonna obviously keep that up. It's just too important. But I want to talk about resource management as far as magic builds go. So I know a lot of people struggle with resource management magic builds. Okay, there's two ways to do this to have a lot more resources, and it's in the Destruction skill line, Restoration Staff skill line. Destruction Staff skill line has an ability, the fourth ability, Weakness to Elements. You're going to morph that to Elemental Drain, max it up to 4. What that does is you keep this buff on a target, it lasts I think 18 to 20 seconds. So it's going to last a little bit longer than your Entropy, and it's going to give you magic every time you attack it. So it's important to do your buffs, use your spammable ability, which we're going to get to, and continue to light attack in between, or animation cancel. You guys always hear me say that. Animation cancel is good for resources, proccing your weapon enchant, and also giving you back resources. Now, the person who casts this is only going to get the benefit from the magic return. So usually it's going to be a Dragonite or something like that. The other ability that a healer can run if people are struggling with magic regeneration is Force Siphon morphed into Spirit Siphon. Every time you attack an enemy, you're going to get 1% magic back. Well, if you have 40,000 magic, 1% is actually quite a bit. If you also have the Destruction Staff ability on there, that's also quite a bit. Okay, and now every class has a resource management tool. So, Dragonite's resource management tool is Battle Roar, the Earth and Heart ability that gives you a flood of resources back every time you use an ultimate. So you're typically going to use your standard of might to get resources back. The class I'm on, Sorcerers, have Dark Conversion. You trade, you bargain to restore health and magic. So you basically just sit here and do this. You get your magic back. Night Blades have siphoning attacks, which gives a chance to do light attacks to get back magic. And Templars have channel focus. So every class has a specific skill to keep resources up to max. It's particularly important on a Templar because Templars get more damage the more resources they have during the execute phase. Okay, so we got buff. We understand that. Now it's spam. When I say by spam, I mean that's your ability. You're going to click over and over and over and over. But you're going to do a light attack in between. So what this looks like is I got my Mage's Guild toggled on. I got my Surge running. And then I'm going to light attack, ability. Light attack, ability. So my spammable ability on a Magic Sork is Force Shock. So I'm just using this. Oh, I can't see because there's a tree behind me. Light attack, ability. Light attack, ability. And that's all you do. And make sure my buffs are up. Oh, more little scutters came. Come here. Yeah, you want some too. And what, you want Dawnbreaker to go? See ya. Okay. So now every class has a specific spammable ability, pretty much, except Magic Sorks and a couple others, Stam Sorks. But there's going to be a useful ability in each of the weapon skill lines. So Magic, what are you going to want to do? We'll start with Templar. They have Biting Jabs. It's the melee jabs you see all the time. And it's going to give you the weapon critical if you don't slot Evil Hunter. You also have Puncturing Sweeps, the other morph, as a Magic Templar. You have Dark Flare for range. You basically have a lot of different ways, and you're going to use your class-specific skill line. Dragonites, Magic. They have Whip. Whip is the Molten Whip. You're going to spam that sucker over and over and do the light attacks. That is the most producing damage ability that you have in your class. And Puncturing Sweeps is the most producing damage ability that you have in your class. So when I see people that are playing Stamina Templars and they're using Wrecking Blow, it's just not going to do as much damage as Biting Jabs. It won't. You can try it, but these are the skills that you need to use to produce the most damage.
User joined your channel.
Even if you're sitting there clicking it over and over and over. You're supposed to click it over and over and over because it's what produces the most damage when your buffs are up. So buff, spam, execute. So for a Magic Sork, I am using the ability in the Destruction Staff skill line, Force Pulse. It's the third ability. You morph it to Force Pulse. Basically, it does 3 elemental blast. And if you look at it, it's almost 2,000 each 3 resources. So that's essentially 6,000 a second, just clicking that over and over and over, with a chance to crit doing more and more damage. So Stamina Sorks or Stamina DKs are going to go with the two-hander and use Wrecking Blow. Or you can go with dual wield and use Rapid Strikes. Bow right now is ineffective because the scaling of Thaumaturge and poison damage doesn't hit nearly as hard as it used to. But if you want to use bow, you're going to do the snipe. That's your spammable ability. And let's see what classes. Magic Nightblade, they're going to use Funnel Health. That has good range, good damage. You can use Concealed Weapon, but you're going to have to play like 5 meters away. Stam Nightblades are also going to use Concealed Weapon, or Surprise Attack, I mean. It's the other ability that you just get right up in their face and use it over and over and over. So, buff, spam, execute. Did I miss a class? Dragon Knights, Wrecking Blow, or Whip. Templars are going to be jabs, either biting for stamina, puncturing sweeps. Stamina Sorks are going to use Wrecking Blow, basically, or Rapid Strikes. Or Magic Sorks are going to use Force Pulse. Nightblades are going to use Funnel Health for Magic, or Concealed Weapon. Execute is you either have a skill on your specific class that can execute, or you can get it from a couple of weapon skill lines. Magic doesn't really have one. So I'm going to Magic Sork, Mage's Wrath, and Stormcalling is my execute. It's magic damage. So I'm going to want to use that only on a magic class. Remember, max magic, spell damage, gives you results. So Magic Templars have Radiant Destruction. Stamina Templars do not have a class-specific skill line. So they're going to have to rely on the two-hander. Two-hander, fourth ability, Reverse Slash. If you read it, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but with the target fighting less than 50% of health, it starts to hit harder, all the way for 300% more damage. What this means is at a certain HP threshold is when you stop everything, keep your buffs up, and switch your spammable attack to this thing, because it does more damage. So on Stam builds, you're going to want to run Executioner. Executioner. Dual Wield does not have a standard execute. They have Steel Tornado, but it doesn't hit as nearly as hard as Executioner for basic stuff. Poison Injection works on the bow, but not nearly as good as a two-hander. For magic builds, you have to rely on your class-specific skill line. There's nothing in Indestruction Staff that does it. So you can use Mage's Wrath on this guy for a Sork, and then on magic DKs, you're screwed pretty much, unless you want to sit there and heavy attack. Magic Templars, you're going to use Radiant Destruction, and then magic Nightblades, you're going to want to use Impale. And the key is 25% health. 25% health. You don't want to use it any higher, and you don't want to start way lower. 25% health. So I have add-ons that show the HP of each target. So let me change something up here. So to show you just basic DPS, what this looks like. That's all your brain is looking at. Is looking at your buffs. Is my two major buffs up? Yes. Okay, I need to spam my ability. Is the critter at 25% health or lower? Yes, no. Okay, I need to spam my execute. So for me, Inner Light's on. I got my 33-second buff. I'm going to spam this attack. Light attack, spam. Light attack, spam. Light attack, spam. He's at 45, 31. There we go. Boom, and execute. That is all DPS is. That is all it is. And that's single target. And he's at, oop. Okay. Now, what happens when there's more than one enemy? Some classes have specific advantages like puncturing sweeps or biting jabs. That can hit 3 or more enemies. The best AoE in the game is Steel Tornado. Weapon, dual wield, Steel Tornado. Hits 12.5 meter radius with no AoE cap. It hits like a truck, and it's an execute. So the lower the health people get, the harder Steel Tornado hits. Magic's builds, you're kind of screwed with this. You have Impulse, the 5th ability, but it's not nearly as good as that. So you can use Magic Dead or whatever, but in general terms, when there's 2 to 3 enemies around, you switch from your normal buff spam execute to your spamming AoE ability. So when there's 3 mobs, this is what it looks like. There's 2. So instead, I just do this. Now, when there's a critter that gets low, I might do an execute just to kill him. Then this guy's at 25% life, and I just do one attack to get him below, and then do an execute. So that is all DPS is. It's not that complicated. Buff, spam, execute. Buff, spam, execute. So let's look at our bars and how I set this up. Okay, so what do I set up my bars like? Well, the simplest way to do it is we know we have to have 2 buffs, right? So we're going to do Mage's Guild, and we're going to set up Inner Light on both bars. The number 1 key for me, just because I know that's what I have to have. So I put it on both bars. I have 1 bar typically that's for single targets or all my damage. If you want a really simple build, you want to have your single target spammable ability, whether it's Whip, Force Pulse, whatever. Then you want to have your AoE spammable ability. So either Steel Tornado or Impulse or, puncturing sweeps or whatever. And then you want to have your execute. So Mage's Wrath, Jesus Beam, Impale or whatever. And then you have a third ability. Well, that could be Entropy. So now I have every single thing that I need on 1 bar. I got my crit, I got my spell damage, I got my 1 ability that's for single target, I got my AoE, got my execute, and I have my ultimate. G2G. The best ultimate in the game, if you don't know, is Shooting Star. Now, besides Dragon Knights, and there's certain situations where there are better ones, but if you don't know what does a lot of damage, take the Mage's Guild ability. And yes, even if you're a stamina build, it's that powerful. It is that powerful. Shooting Star, the reason I use this is Engulfing Flames will actually make it hit harder than Ice Comment if you have a Dragon Knight that uses it. So, setting up bars, this is a magic Sork. So if I were doing a Stam Dragon Knight, I would have two-hander. I would use the third ability in two-hander, Wrecking Blow, as my spammable ability. I would have my expert hunter, so I have my crit. I'd have rally, so I'd have my weapon damage. I'd have brawler, or I'd put my AoE on my other bar. And then I'd have reverse slash morph into executioner. As simple as you can get it. So let's say a magic Templar. What would I have? Well, I can do AoE and single target in one ability, puncturing sweeps. So we'll get that sucker there. Mage's Light, Entropy, and then Jesus Beam, and I have a free slot. So I could use Blazing Spear here or something else, whatever I wanted, and then Shooting Star. Okay, so now who has trouble setting up their bar for PvE DPS? What class and what race are you?
DK Magicum.
Okay, so Magic Dragon Knight. Now, Magic Dragon Knight's a little bit harder because you don't have a class-specific execute. You have tons of AoE abilities. So the easiest way to do it is you'll blow through your magic unless you have Elemental Drain. So I would do Inner Light, Lava Whip, should be Molten Whip for PvE, Entropy, and then I would do Impulse, or whatever it's called, Elemental Ring, and then Elemental Drain. Destruction Staff, Weakness to Elements, Morph to Elemental Drain. And then my ultimate would be Dragon Knight Standard. For everyone else, it probably should be Shooting Star. Now, Veil of Blades, great, comes in great at certain times. Storm Atronach comes in great in certain times, but I'm talking about just in general terms. It's a great idea. So for your Dragon Knight, you're going to whip a single target, you're going to keep your Entropy up, you're going to keep Elemental Drain up so you don't run out of magic, and then just AoE with your one ability. You have one bar to do everything. Okay, so what do I do on my second bar? Is it all junk? What is it? Typically speaking, I have buffs, wards, shields, and self-healing on this bar. So I have Power Surge, which is my major brutality if I didn't want to use Entropy. On a Magic Sorc, I have my defensive, so I have Hardened Ward. I have Healing Ward. So Healing Ward is the fourth ability in the Restoration stat skill line, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Basically, this is what happens with Healing Word. Let me get my food back up. Speaking of food, you're going to want to run buy stat food. Buy stat food. So magic and health, or stamina and health at VR15 is going to produce the best results. But say we're in trouble here. 23% life. Healing Word. Look. I go to full health. They can't break my ward, and I go to full health. That's how powerful Healing Word is. You put this bubble on you, and its strength determines on how low your health is. And then it pops in a few seconds, and guess what? You're at back to full health.
You're using a Resto Staff.
Correct. So I have a Destro, Resto. Keep it simple. Now there's people that use dual wield, two-handers, there's all sorts of mathful tricks, but don't do that if you don't understand it. Destro, Resto. For stamina build, I usually go two-hander, dual wield. Just simple, simple, simple. So you can see there, let me show you something else. So I get really low health. And Healing Word. Takes 5 seconds to pop. Full health.
Nice.
Here's another trick. If you're a vampire, you put Healing Word on yourself. You go into Mist Form. When Mist Form is done, you come out at full health. Because it pops, you don't take any damage in Mist Form. You take 75% less. It pops, you're at full health. Another reason I love Vampire, because I'm sitting there running around, about to die. Boom, I do my Healing Word, Mist Form, run around. Kabloomp, I'm out of Mist Form, full health, and then my resources are back ready to fight. So survival on the back bar. Okay, so what do stam builds do? Well, vigor. Vigor. That. Now, not everyone has it, but you got to PvP, in my opinion, to get vigor. It's that much of a benefit. It is life-altering to get vigor. There's a couple other things you're going to want to do now that we got that. So I said buffs. There's ways to get ultimate faster on every class except magic or except Sorks. So every class has a skill line or an ability set that you can use every 6 or so seconds to get ultimate faster. Nightblades is siphoning. Templars, Dawn's Wrath. Dragon Knights, Earth and Heart. So you're going to want to have something that you cast somewhat frequently to get ultimate faster. So for a Dragon Knight, I often use Earth and Heart into a Vigor or into a Healing Ward. So it generates me ultimate. As a Templar, I'll use Purifying Light or, Vampire's Bane. Something like that. Or Power of the Light if I'm a stand build. And for Nightblades, I'll use Funnel Health, Siphoning Attacks, Sap Essence, Power Extraction, something like that. And I'm using it often. That's why I generate so much ultimate. Because every 6 seconds or so, I'm casting one of those abilities. Especially in PvP. So, in summary, we got first bar, which is basically just damage. The second bar is buffs. So I have my Inner Light on here. I have my other buff. I have my heal. I have my one ability that I need to proc ultimate. And I have something else. Maybe it's to heal someone else or speed, get a dodge type thing. So if I'm a magic Sork, I'm going to use Streak. Or is it Streak? Come here. So I have buff, 2 wards, and Streak. Front bar, all my abilities so I can DPS. So I get in trouble, I go back, put my couple wards up, I'm safe, I go back to killing people. Remember, don't rely on your healer to always bail you out. You will need some way to survive. Once again, it's Healing Ward if you're a magic build, and this is just basics to survival. Healing Ward or Vigor. There's other ways to do it, like you can Reaper's Mark as a Nightblade. You can do all sorts of tricky stuff, but just keeping it simple. Those 2 things are the basics to surviving. Okay, does this make sense so far?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, what questions do we have so far?
Why Vampire's Bane over Reflective Light?
Vampire's Bane single target lasts longer, does more damage. Reflective Light is AoE, but it only hits 3 enemies. So you're better off using Puncturing Sweeps or Elemental Ring versus just using that.
Okay.
The longer it lasts, more damage it does, the better it is.
Would Magic DK ever use Engulfing Flames?
Yes, but I said keep it simple for this. So
okay.
There's some Magic Blades that have Seal Flames. They have Mage's Light, both toggled on. They have to do 15 bar swaps and put 5 dots on. We're not there yet. Keep it simple. Now there's a couple of places you can practice your DPS solo or in a group. So open your map up. This Runes of Kardala. It's a delve. There's Sky Shard in there. Basically, you go in a circle, you kill these spirits, and it gives you a Spirit Stone. One of them in there is just a healer. The healer just basically sits there and heals itself, and you can just beat on it indefinitely. You can also do the Wayrest non-vet sewers. The Wayrest sewers non-vet has a crocodile you can beat on with a friend in there. You can also do Spindle Clutch to really see where you're at. Vet Spindle Clutch, the Bloodspawn boss. That's the test to see how much DPS you have. Well, my friends, that's a video. So let me know in the comments section if you like that type of thing and if you would want to do something like that for the YouTube community specifically. Maybe we'll set it up on a date and time and I'll do something like this an hour each on the PC, maybe EU, NA, wherever you guys need me, Xbox and PS4. So, specifically, you'll need a DC, Daggerfall Covenant character at least level 10 to participate in this. Preferably the North American server on each of the platforms. It's easier for me to come to you than it is to me to come to every single other person and try to teach this stuff. So, if you want this, leave it in the comments. Let me know what I could do better. I appreciate you watching, guys. I'm living the dream. It's because of you. Thanks so much.